This podcast features me and Aussie Simon, g'day, and was recorded on the way out of London on our way up to the other worlds, in slightly more glamorous than Charleroi, Derby. In it we talk about why some rule sets have more longevity than others, what armies we're using this weekend in the competition, and whether the M40 is a better route north than the M1 at 6pm on a Friday evening.
So we're trying to get out of London on our way up to Derby, which, based on current trajectory,
will be tomorrow.
Could be tomorrow. Yeah. Luckily, it's a 2-day competition, and possibly we'll be in time for the second game tomorrow. Yes, not ideal. Trying to sneak out, but we were we've been sort of having a bit of a conversation about longevity of war games rules and what the magic ingredient is about doing that, and sort of around why FoGR with a smaller range of lists and no changes and things like that has been still kind of interesting for a few years, and then how DBM carried on for so long with different iterations, and how FoG, has carried on, but the changes in FoG version 2 didn't really do as much to reinvigorate the rules as they did each time there was a new iteration on DBM. And what we were just sort of both musing on whether this half-baked theory about whether the underlying mechanics of FoG, which is the POA system, it's am I better than you by one or occasionally two steps in the opposed dice combat mechanic. That's the core mechanism for everything in FoG. And even the way superiority works or inferiority works in troops is equivalent mathematically to about half a POA. So you're adjusting things on this opposed dice roll POA thing. So if you change the rules or try and change the game balance, you're still doing it within the context of a fairly blunt, unsubtle instrument of POA. I suppose you can change a couple of factors in the cohesion test, but that really only applies if after combat's actually happened. Whereas in DBM, when changes were going into combat and grading factors, you had superior, you had inferior. Do they count in this bound, that bound? Do they count for shooting? You had different factors for shooting and for combat, and each factor was a number between 1 and 5. So you had a lot more flexibility to tweak that. And then there were outcome factors which varied by not only by troop type but by interaction. So was it a quick kill? Was it not? Did it push it back? Did it do this? Did overlaps or buttocks of death or all those things? Did they all have effects on how the game played? And you had a lot more levers to pull. Whereas with FoG, whilst it looks like there's levers to pull, you've actually got POAs, which can be 1 or 0. They're very rarely 2. And am I giving you a extra minus in certain circumstances on a 2 dice morale test when you're losing? Those are almost the only 2 bits, because the core system is so robust, so kind of clean and simple, not fiddly, but it actually gives you less things to play with to tweak game balance, and it's whether that underlying mechanic makes FoG as a system actually quite difficult to I hate to say the word improve, but change in a way that makes different armies viable, just inherently. Does that sort of make sense, or am I missing something about the lists as well?
No, I think if you think from a mechanics perspective, you're right, because I remember when I used to play from DBM 3 to 3.1.
Okay.
Ignoring the army lists.
When you were 12, obviously.
Well, yeah. The way they changed it's predominantly the quick kills and the pushback and that whole mechanic. That just tweaking that and adapting that to various troop types made a big difference. So, a good example is in DBM3, I think Roman legionnaires were just sword.
Yeah.
Not particularly exciting. They didn't do much.
Yep.
In DBM 3.1, they said, well, Romans were pretty well up for a scrap. If they got the charge in and they beat you, they're going to really hurt you.
Yep.
So they get quick kills against a few things, or they got an extra minus because they do this big flying charge in and all that. You don't have that in FoG. The mechanics fundamentally is, you're a troop type, you might have a bigger sword, or very occasionally wallet for a scrap, like salvo units in FoGR or that.
But the only way that actually happens is it gives you +1 in a comparison of POAs. It's either an extra +1 or it isn't. There's no.
That's it. There's nothing else you can tweak to
mechanic, isn't it?
Yeah. And the worst you can really stack a combat. Medic. Still working. In FoG and FoGR is to charge someone from the rear as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Where DBM, there are a lot of things you could do with it. Where you could have the various quick kills, who charged who and what turn and all that. You could tweak that over the different iterations, and that made in one version of the rules, bow were very good. Next version they mitigated those, but then blade became very good, or warband, or
because you were changing the factors, you were changing the outcomes, you were changing when those outcomes actually happened, and all of those made a difference to the overall balance, but on different dimensions. You're pulling different levers, whereas in FoG, that lever is the POA and it's the cohesion test. That's kind of it. That's the only two levers there are.
So it allows you to keep the same toys that you own, but with just a few tweaks in the army, the mechanics, maybe a few army list changes. One army that was useless now becomes extremely viable, or less good or better.
But I still think there might have been something fundamental about the lists as well. Because a list in DBM has loads and loads of different troop types, but you were choosing 50 or 60 different bases. Whereas in FoG you're choosing 12, and 5 of them are in the minimums in some ways. But you're not choosing from such a great list. Whereas in DBM, if you had 4 knights or something, or 4 superior cavalry, that could, added with all the other things, make a big difference to how a whole 60 element list was balanced. But in FoG that becomes one battle group. And one battle group in FoG is
nothing.
Is not going to make a massive difference to anything, any particular list. It's going to make it maybe interesting, but not in that. Wow, that's actually a potent little force on its own that can do something, or that changes the balance of that army, makes it viable, or a new rule can improve those specific troop types sufficiently that they change the whole overall army balance. So I think there's just something about having lots of different units or lots of different things that you can affect in lots of different dimensions that structurally made rules changes and list changes in DBM, and probably in DBMM as well, possible to keep the game a bit fresher. Whereas a kind of FoG-esque sort of system, it's just that little bit harder to do that sort of thing.
Because with it looks like from the design philosophy, FoG mechanics have been flattened down a little bit. If you think of it, so it's simpler, cleaner. But after a few years, you've done everything with it, and to reinvigorate or change it to try different combinations, you get to the point where you've done everything. Well,
I'm not sure. Even if you talk about changing it, the only way, if you want to change the game balance, the only way you can change the game balance is by giving troops different POAs. That's it. You've got one dimension, and that dimension's binary. Are they +1 against these guys, or are they evens against these types of guys? That's kind of it.
Where DBM, because it had much more depth in that, which could be very frustrating, but also allowed a lot more evilness. You had quick kills, this, that. You could change one or two little things, and that turned the whole game around. Versus +1 POA or no POA.
Or no
Ta-da.
POA. Ta-da. That's it. You're sorted. You're fixed. Yeah, that's apparently. Yeah, interesting. Interesting about, I guess, where we are with rules, and I suppose that makes it tricky for the people trying to do a new version of FoG 3. If that theory is right, no matter what you do, you're still going to have fundamentally the same game, and you're not going to be able to reinvigorate the lists, because the lists have got less troops and you've got less variables to change the behaviour of troops. Whereas it's possible to make those changes in a system with more dimensions and into the combat and the combat outcomes. Movement, I suppose, does make a bit of difference to stuff, but your way for achieving combat outcomes is pretty binary. It's POAs, it's post dice rolls, and then it's a morale test where you roll 2 dice and you change a couple of the factors, but you're just changing the probability. You're not creating anything you're just moving the probability dial.
Yeah.
It's not like giving a quick kill to a troop type in DBM that suddenly creates a whole new random variable in the probability dial as well, and makes you think, actually, I'll take that on a losing combat, because if I start to win, I'm going to win big. It really swings a bit more violently. It just I guess it flattens everything out to probabilities a bit. But if you get equally, though, I suppose if FoG had more wild probability swings, then the issue that it's a game with, let's say, 12 units, where there's wild probability swings in a game with only 12 pieces, that makes the whole game a bit random.
Very.
Having wild probability swings across 50 pieces or 20 pieces or 30 pieces, you've got the chance for that to flatten out, and you've also got a chance for it to become a narrative. Whereas in a 12 unit game, wild luck swings make it boom boom. Oh,
I'm dead.
We're finished. Oh, that's where's the chewiness of making the 6-1 a viable part of the game? So, interesting dilemma, I think, at the moment. So, but if we're to kind of go back and talk about what we're actually doing here, which looks like we're now out and free on the M40, heading towards some Stygian blackness.
Oh yeah.
That could be quite a
good storm.
Yeah, I think we need to get north before that. head north out of that. And we're following up on last year's victory for Team Central London Mediocre.
Was it by 0.34
by
a point?
0.34 of 1 point out of about 300 or something, to make us Derby World champions of the 3-man FoGR team. But is it Mr. Allen who's not with us?
Yeah, Mr. Allen.
Well, didn't we have a substitute last year as well? Didn't
Lurkio?
No, didn't Lurkio drop in? Or was that someone else? Because we had to have somebody playing. We had Simon Lurkio playing last year.
We did,
We did, yeah. He was playing with Samurai. And
yeah.
He did quite well, really. So we haven't got him this time. We've got Don the Don.
Yeah.
Don, one of the Dons.
Yeah.
Davis playing. Will be travelling up on his own on the day, because he lives a bit nearer. And we're trying to recapture the Renaissance crown, or possibly offload a trophy that gets us up the house by coming an honourable second in Renaissance. So, Simon, you're using Crazy Swedes.
Yep. So early 30 Years War Swedish. My first time ever giving that army list a go.
You're in for a treat, really, because, well, I'm sure, as you know, it should be a really great list, and it just doesn't quite work for some really obscure reason. But you just get that frustration of thinking, it's got to be brilliant. The infantry are brilliant. The cavalry are brilliant. It's got to work. I've got to smash people up. I've just run out of. Why have I lost? That kind of thing.
But it'll be interesting to see, because we know in 15mm it doesn't work because it can't span the table.
Okay.
I'm doing in 25mm.
Oh, right.
And
that's how much attention I've paid. Wow.
And all of a sudden, 6 battle groups of Swedish salvo spans the table.
That spans the table. Wow.
So where a lot of the other players are going for 30 Years War French or in Ben Army.
Yep.
It's got more units,
yep,
but you can't put them all on the table. So I'm hoping I can get a Swedish arrow of 6 battle groups of salvo units come streaming in, making very Swedish jokes.
Yep.
And charge in and hopefully go straight through everybody. That's the theory.
So you're planning on doing a lot of shopping either way then, really?
Yes, because we know with the Swedish army, as you know, because you've played it, it's binary. It either wins or it loses. It doesn't draw.
No. Well, yeah, Derby's good for shopping. And,
I've got a credit card and an extra bag of to fill.
There's a few bits and pieces to pick up this year. I think I've unfortunately got to buy more of those little big man shield transfers for those plastic Romans that I've got.
Yeah, I have to go and join you for that for my 25mm medievals.
So your medievals, and so doing that. But I'm wheeling out the Kalmar Union, which
does make me think of olives.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah, but it's not Greek. It's Scandinavian.
Yeah.
So I think I've got an army that will be 44 bases wide, which is the width of the table, and that's sort of the full extent of my science. It's quite a lot of units. I've got this vague strategy that other people will have keels, which will be better than most of my army, but a lot narrower, and they will beat parts of my army, pursue them, and then I'll hit them in the flank, and then recover to win because I've just got more units, and then I've got some super extra mega heavy gendarme superiors as well, which very, very few armies get. So I'm thinking that some of my knights will just be better than the other person's knights, and that's kind of the strategy because I've not really played much FoGR since Warfare last year. So,
but looking at your period, you've got some interesting combinations. So,
so what's in there?
So there's only there's actually no double ups, which is quite impressive.
Wow.
So you've got Kalmar Union,
but hey,
Caroline Imperialist, which is a proper.
That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah. 2 big superior early tercios, a couple of later tercios, and not much else.
Okay.
Then you've got Scottish. That'll be interesting to see.
Pike. Yep.
Maximilian Imperial, which is an army I've always wanted to do. Still love my German pike.
Okay.
Italian states. That's actually an army I don't know much about. It's going to be
Condotta pikemen and
very similar to that.
Yeah.
You've got early Ottoman Turks, which I'm sorry, Clive, but you're going to get thumped.
No, that's not good. My army's sort of optimised for playing cavalry armies, so
yeah, and so that's going to be regretfully, I'm sorry, Clive, painful. And you've got 2 Italian wars, but one's Venetian, one's in French. So
French, somebody will have to go for those elite, fast-moving Swiss that cost about a gazillion points.
Yeah,
but are unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable.
So it's quite impressive for 8 players. There's no double ups.
No, that's a good mix. Okay. Yeah, they all do sound a bit much for muchness, apart from me and the Ottomans, really.
But that period is a proper, honest foot period.
Yeah.
You want your keel, you want your tercio, and the gendarmes look pretty and dance around for a while, but don't want to play with the foot.
So really I'm putting down a lot of terrain.
Yeah. And protect your flanks.
Protect my flanks and see what I can do, try and not lose, and then let's see how the game goes. Because I've got, I've got some of the shield transfers for the what are they called? Gripping Beast, that Roman infantry set that everybody got quite excited about. And I'm a bit, they're I don't know whether they're engineered to try and make you buy some of their metals as well to pad it out, but the sprue that it comes on has, I think it's 7 bodies on it, on the sprue. There's only one sprue. Oh, well, there's a command sprue with 2 figures, but the main sprue has only got 7 bodies on it, 5 of which are auxilia, stroke legions. I think only 1 of them is armoured, and then 2 of them are bowmen. So you've got a 5-to-2 ratio of spear and swordsmen to bowmen, which is, no Roman army's got that many bowmen.
So no, they don't.
I've been having a sort of go that you can just about carve off the bow case, which is moulded on. It's not separate, it's moulded on. You can just about do that, and just about do something with the arm, because the archer's arm is moulded on as well. So one of the arms is fixed, and the other one's got the other one is separate. So the one holding the bow is fixed. So you've got to cut the bow off, cut underneath sort of the armpit so that you can get a sort of straight arm down. Do some fillering around with it, and luckily there's just about enough shields to turn some of these bowmen into blokes with shields, and then you've still only got about, I think, 4 or 5 different, no, it must be more than 4 or 5, probably about 6 or 7 different arms, which are either holding a sword or holding a spear at a slightly funny angle. So compared to those Perry medievals, which you're making, I've made, those screws are genius, absolute genius. There's so many ways. You can, the body can be a bowman, he can be a pikeman, he can be a halberdier, he can be a crossbowman, he can be loading, he can be shooting, all with the same body.
Yeah.
And you just look at these gripping beast ones and go, really? Come on, guys, a bit more imagination. So they're a bit monopose, but I'm sure when they get on table, everybody else they fight will also have the same shield transfers, which is the LBMS kind of problem of the era. But I might pick up some metals just to mix them in a bit, and I need a few more of the shield transfers to make up the bases to really give me effectively a Roman ally or a Roman core to this 25mm sort of hairy barbarian army that I'm pulling together for up to the Gare.
Yeah.
Because with the normal horror of thinking, am I going to do a FoG or a DVM 25mm army? That's a lot of bloody stuff to do. With ADLG, it's 20 ADLG bases, which is about 30 DVM FoG type bases, which is about half of a normal army.
Yeah.
You get a complete army out of it. So actually, I reckon one of those 44-man gripping beast boxes plus a couple of other metals, you could probably do putting 7 infantry on a base for the heavy infantry, or 6 for the medium infantry. 7s and 6s, 13, 39. So you can get 6 or 7 bases out of one pack, which 2 bases, 3 bases of heavy infantry, 3 bases of auxilia. That's kind of a Roman ally for anybody really, plus a few little Siloi bowmen to do support. So, for 20 quid for a Roman ally for this metal hairy barbarian army that I picked up cheap anyway, was a bit too tempting to do, and you do get that little bit of gluey stuff. So that's probably most of my purchases, and I'll also be deploying some new fields that I've made that I'm sure you'll be able to see on the web when the match reports come out. So, but look, we probably better tune out now because we're about to hit the glories of the M25. Well, possibly not quite. Yeah, we're about to hit the glories of the M25 and head up. But we'll reconvene this after this commercial break.